I would love to turn this session over to Jenny Glass. Jenny is the Senior Outreach Manager for the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. Take it away, Jenny.
Wow, we even have beautiful music.
I know.
Hey. Jenny, changing the vibe here this morning.
It's a vibe.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all today, and even a greater pleasure to introduce this panel and this discussion this morning with our all-stars here from the Action Squads. So I first want to say, I get to say, these are my views, and not the views of the San Francisco Federal Reserve. And with that, I want to acknowledge that we've talked a lot about individuals and systems. And I think we all recognize, and the reason that we're here, because our systems are not working for so many people. And it is not up to those people that it's not working for to change the system. It's up to all of us. And I do also want to just really appreciate, because I'm not from Washington, I'm from Oregon. We do not have a financial empowerment network. And this is amazing. So I hope you all, and I can tell the participation is active and healthy, and that you all are doing the real work of partnership building and relationship building. And we've been talking a lot about building trust and building partnerships. That's what's happening. That's what we're doing. And that's how change happens. So I want to appreciate everybody for being here. And with that, I am going to start way down there. Okay. We are going to do our best to have a conversational style panel today. Sure. But I first want to start out with letting everybody have some little moment to introduce yourself, your organization, the action squad you participated in, and then what does financial belonging mean to you?
Thank you. So I am, once again, Miladys Garcia with the Financial Education Public-Private Partnership. That is FEP with 3 Ps. And my action squad is the Youth Action Squad. What does financial belonging mean to my community? So my community is basically the teaching, the learning, and that holistic approach to financial education. A lot of what we do is based around making educators feel confident teaching financial education. They weren't taught financial education. They've made financial mistakes, and there's a lot of shame with that. They're paying back student loans for God knows how long. And it can be very difficult to convince an educator who has had no exposure to financial education that this is something that you can teach your students well. So that's part of creating that financial belonging in the community. It starts with the educator. We at FEP cannot go to every classroom and teach this stuff. We have partners, and that's great. They do a lot of outreach. They go to the classrooms. But even at that, we are not gonna get everyone. So the best approach is to make our educators aware of the resources available out there, train them to be able to teach this and get their confidence up so our students can actually access that financial education, get financial education. We rely on them. So that's part of the equation. The other part of the equation is identifying those resources that connect with every student. One of the conversations that we had yesterday was around traditional financial educations have been created by upper middle class white men, and they reflect the reality of upper middle class white people. And our state is becoming pretty diverse. We have the second largest migrant population, second only to California. So we have people from all over the place, and that's a good thing. What's not a good thing is having resources that don't reflect that, because when you start talking about, you have the greatest lesson plan in the world, and you're teaching budgeting, but in your lesson plan, the scenario has a child from a bank household with a traditional family composition, a mom and dad, 2.3 kids, and a dog. But that's not the reality for a lot of our kids. We have a lot of kids in foster care, a lot. We have a lot of unhomed youth. We have a lot of justice-involved youth. We have a lot of kids that are being brought up by grandma. We don't have Everybody doesn't have a mom and dad. Not everybody understands credit. If you talk about opportunity costs, they're gonna be like, what? So many of our newcomers come from countries where there's been financial trauma. Not credit-reliant nations at all. Very independent and financially stable people, hardworking. They just don't rely on credit. That's just not a thing where they come from. And that's okay. Not here. In America, you need credit. That is a wealth-building tool. We all understand that. But if you start a conversation with a student and you're trying to teach that from that vantage point of, don't you know what credit is? That is really discouraging. So our job is to find resources that teach that foundational concept of, hey, credit is your financial reputation. And this is how you approach it in a very inclusive way. And it's not that easy because there's not that much out there that is good. Everybody feels like, oh yeah, I can do this. Everybody can, but not everybody can do it well. So we're not okay with providing resources that are kind of okay. No. We're going to provide resources that are of the highest quality because that's what our students deserve. And our educators too. Many of our educators are learning right alongside our students. Nobody taught them. And that's a really powerful thing. When a student and a teacher can learn together, that's incredible. And it's real. The other part of the equation is extending the learning into the home. So yes, we're K-12. We work with public school system and districts and educational service district and whatnot. But we also realize that parents don't feel confident talking about finance with their kids. They don't. I think there's a statistic out there that says parents feel more confident and comfortable talking about sex than they do about personal finance. And again, there's a lot of shame. If you're not meeting your child's needs or keeping up with the Joneses, it can be hard to talk about that. So taking that shame out and identifying resources to teach parents, hey, if you want to talk about budgeting, here's a great children's literature book that has that theme, and these are the questions, that's right. These are the questions that you can pose. Hey, how did this person manage their money? Was this smart, or how should it have been done? Let's think about this. And that's a really non-threatening way to start that conversation, where parents feel like, okay, I can do this. So again, we really focus on the holistic approach to financial education, cover all of the different parts to make this work, not just now, but long term. We want our students, once they exit, the school system, to feel prepared, at least with that foundational knowledge, to say, I know what to do next. And it's okay to have setbacks, but I'm gonna continue to work towards my goal, understanding that I am capable. That's what we want them to really get. I am capable of being financially stable. I can do this. This is not just for a certain demographic. We can all be financially stable. I think I covered everything, right? Okay.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to follow up. Hi everyone, my name is Anthony Blankenship. I use he, him pronouns. I work for Civil Survival, our organization. We have two parts. We have a policy and advocacy side, which I work on around criminal legal reform, and then we have our legal side, in which we help people get relief from things like legal financial obligations, which are costs of incarceration and restitution and all of that. I'm someone who's been impacted by the criminal legal system, and it's very interesting because I've met a couple people here who've also been impacted by the criminal legal system, and it has been beautiful to connect with them, but it's not a scarlet letter that we carry on our chest at all time. You can't just point at somebody and be like, oh, I see that look in their eye, they've been incarcerated. But there are some people who have been in solitary that I'm like, oh yeah, I can tell. What does financial belonging mean for our community? I think when it comes down to it, you have to first, I'm gonna take the financial out of it. It is the belonging in the community first, right? a lot of folks don't feel, they come back into the community and don't feel like they belong. There's somebody here who runs a reentry house, and what they talked about yesterday was NIMBY, not my backyard, right? It's this idea that as a society, we're not accepting people back in. How can we talk about finances when we're not giving people opportunities for jobs, for housing? We don't want them in our neighborhood, right? We're not trying to be good neighbors. And so it is really difficult. Somebody asked, how do we connect with individuals? It is that relation, from your perspective as an institution, as people coming in, people would rather talk about sex than talk about than finances, apparently. So you have to, but it's real, right? I mean, there's this shame, and we're already coming from a place. People who've been incarcerated are already coming from a place of shame. I come in, and I had to. They gave me $40 a bus pass, and I had a check because I was working as a teaching assistant while I was in prison, making 42 cents an hour. So I went in and cashed my check for like $30, the amount of money I had saved while I was in there, right? But I had to use my prison ID to do that. And somebody was talking yesterday about the trauma informed. It is how you accept somebody, how you react when you see that card, right? People are going to be looking for every opportunity for their exit if they have experienced trauma, right? They want to know. I tell you, people want to know where the exits in a building are, let alone like they're going to be looking at every little thing, microaggression that you have. Because it's those internal scars, it's that internal scarlet letter that people are holding, and so it's about trying to help them find acceptance. That's what we're trying to do, is be back into the community, be accepted, feel welcome, and then go about our lives, right? And so it's about creating that opportunity and that space for people to be able to do that, and then listening. As I was saying yesterday, people they'll come in and they'll have like no shoes on or something like that, and they need some support about something, and they're asking you for opening a bank account or something, something completely different, and you're like, well, Ken, we need to get you some shoes, brother, but that's not what they actually are asking for, right? They're asking for your support on doing this thing because that's what they're finding, that's immediacy. Also, that financial belonging. What I also see is the financial system is very much like the incarceration system. You got people who are calling you, or you're checking in on you to see when you can make your payments, when you can do this. It's very much like policing when it comes to having, holding something over someone, right? I have like so much student debt, they ain't never seen a dime, but but it's that system, it is this like, it is always going to hold me, down in some sort of way, and that's what we're trying to, hopefully as a community, trying to figure out ways in which we can better our community and make it safer. And one way to make it safer is for people to actually have housing, have employment, have the basic needs met, and so it's all tied together. This financial belonging is also tied to just, community belonging.
Good morning, Marty Kooistra. I work for Civic Commons. If you're not familiar with Civic Commons, we say that we work in the messy middle. We have roughly three programs that we operate. One is called We Belong Here, modeled after the OBI Institute, the Othering and Belonging Institute, mostly focused in the Puget Sound, but doing more work throughout the state of Washington now. We also run a scorecard on equity. If you haven't seen it, you can go to Civic Commons and review that equity scorecard. And then the third is network weaving, we call it, and the Black Home Initiative is an example of network weaving. So I am here as the servant to the core team of 8 Black leaders who drive the Black Home Initiative on a day-to-day basis. They are the strategic advisors, and then the roughly 40 folks who sit on the full team. And I see Tina over there. She's one of our full team members. There are others of you in the room who are among the 80 Black Home Initiative partners that we have today focused on this network. I also want to acknowledge Rosa, who has been graciously staffing the BHI booth. If you haven't met Rosa, she's a Year Up intern working with the Black Home Initiative. If you're not familiar with Year Up, please go ask her about that program. Financial belonging. I think for us at the Black Home Initiative, it really boils down to access to all aspects of what one needs to achieve livelihood in our very complicated society. And that access comes with dignity and respect. And the challenge that we face, which we've all been talking about the last day and a half, is really all about forming new systems, new approaches, new ways of doing financial access. Access to homeownership, in our case, is key. I will stop there because I think we have more to talk about. I will ask you, though, if you would be willing to write down 3 words that you will look at later tonight, maybe, when you get to a computer or your phone, not in the hurry of today. Find out when these 3 words were first used officially in U.S. history. Okay? They are badges and incidents. Badges and incidents. What was that? Badges and incidents.
Oh, thank you. So I am Jenefeness Franke. I represent a few organizations. So first, I'll talk about Fiscal Finesse Consulting. Fiscal Finesse Consulting is a full-service consulting firm. We help solopreneurs to grow their businesses. So we look at all aspects of business, but specifically the financial aspect of business. So helping to understand cash flow, understand sales projections, understand revenue streams, and actually implement additional revenue streams and hopefully passive revenue streams. But then also getting them prepared for access to capital. And so because we have so many financial folks in the room today, I'm gonna give y'all a quick story. And the story is of this small business owner in Seattle. Some of you have maybe visited the restaurant. This business has been in existence for 12 years. She's at a place right now where she may be having to close her business. And it's because of a lack of financial acumen. She's been running her business. She usually gets her food from Costco. She's not looking at how to do business better. She actually does not know how to do business better. She loves to cook. She loves to serve. And those are her strong points. But what she's missing is the operation side. And so when it comes down to having a small business, a micro business, a solo business, and especially a Black-owned business, it is super hard to fit in, to understand what the next steps are to grow your business and sustain your business. And so that's what we focus on. The other organization that I want to tell you all about is Black-owned Business Excellence. Anybody in here heard of Black-owned Business Excellence? Okay. So we have some amazing partnerships. Yesterday, Joe Sky Tucker was here. They've been supporting us at Business Impact Northwest since the very beginning. What we would love to see as far as financial belonging is a place or organizations that are actually doing the outreach to help these businesses grow. They are amazing at the existence of the business, whatever the business side is, but not so much at the business of the business during the operation side. And so you all have that expertise. Not only do you have that expertise, but you have CRA funds, You have all kind of dollars in your financial institutions to help these folks, but not actually going and physically doing that work, and it's needed. So I'm going to take a page out your book because I like that. So write this down. Write this down. BOBE-WA.org. That is a very small, very new, 100% volunteer organization that is focused on Black-owned business. We have our 5th annual symposium in February, and we need you all to be there, not only in present, but also your money, okay? Because you're supporting these Black-owned businesses to grow, to survive, to thrive, and also just to be educated on how to get to the next level. So that's what I call financial belonging. Having the folks, yes. Yes. I know. Y'all got your pens slowly. It's B as in Black, O as in owned, B as in business, E as in excellence, dash, WA for Washington.org. So BOBE-WA.org. One of the things that I will say, financial belonging looks like to me, we have meetings every Friday at 10 a.m. for businesses all across the state of Washington. Anybody is welcome. The Zoom link is there. You know who shows up at these meetings and has continuously showed up? Folks from Evergreen Business Capital. They are showing up, and that's what it's about. Showing up, staying, understanding what the challenges are, and meeting those challenges. So we invite you all to join us every Friday. We've been doing it for 3 years. There are business owners there. We talk about all kind of Black stuff. So, and it's okay, it's a safe space. We have folks who are not Black that join us, but the point is, it's for everybody, but it's for us. We are targeting us, and we're very intentional about it.
Whew, okay, this is my first time doing this, so. Okay. So, my name is Marty Vargas, and I'm representing Tacoma Community House. We serve immigrants and refugees for over 100 years. I look pretty good, right? For 100 years. So, I've been doing this for a year. And why I decided to do this? I have to learn English as an adult. You guys, this is hard. This is hard. And when you arrive to the United States and you don't speak the language, but you see jobs that you wanted to apply, but you don't know how. And they ask you questions, and then all you say is yes, with a big smile. Yes, yes. Why they're asking you? I don't know, but you're saying yes. So I made a lot of mistakes by not knowing the system. I built my credit, only God knows how, to the point that I reached the 800. And I made so many mistakes that it drops down to 500. Oopsies. And then as a financial coach working for immigrants and refugees, I am in charge of all the new arrivals. That means Mexico, Venezuela, Ukraine, all over the place. And that is people who is running away from, whatever situation is going on their countries. It's so sad to see doctors, attorneys, dentists, business owners selling everything that they have to try to establish in the United States where they don't know nothing about. Mm-hmm. So I take it very personal because I knock a lot of doors. Nobody, when I was asking, nobody was able to help me until I found Tacoma Community House. That was the first place that opened the door for me. That's where I learned English. That's where I got my first job. And now I wanted to pay back to the community by not only teaching them what finances means, but showing them how to navigate the system. It is really hard to go, because these people has money. These people is bringing money with them, but they don't know what to do. They cannot even rent an apartment because they don't have a credit score. You know, they cannot even like start a business because they don't know how. So my main point is walking them through to build a credit score, and then showing them the different banking accounts, and then showing them what an APR means, you know, how to apply for this, how to apply for that, how to apply for that, the other thing. Now, how they're gonna apply? They don't have the documentation they need. They're not illegal because they're here seeking asylum or refugees or whatever situation, parolees, depending of the country they're coming from. They're not here illegal, but they don't have a social security card, so as well as working permit yet, but they have the money. So I've been knocking a lot of banking institution doors, trying to ask them for an opportunity to help them open a banking account with whatever documentation they have from their country. I mean, have you guys noticed how many Hispanic people has business in Washington State? Food trucks everywhere, Mexican stores everywhere. It's just like, we bring money to United States. So financial belonging for me is, or means basically, to help these people understand how to navigate the system and help these people understand that they are welcome here in the United States. Yeah. By the way, I've been doing something really good, and I wanted to share with you guys. Last week, I won an award from UDAF into the Latinx education system. So I've been doing something really good, and I wanted to share with you.
I do not believe that was your first time doing this. Wow, this has been so awesome to hear from everyone, and something that I'm really noticing and reflecting on with this conference in the last couple of days is the amount of folks, the amount of lived experience in the room, and how that really centers all of our conversations and our discussions about what needs to change, about what services exist, what services need to exist. Yesterday we talked about bringing that lived experience into all levels of an organization, including at the decision-making level. And I think this really just highlights what happens when we do bring people into these conversations and into the policy making. Anthony, I loved what you said about financial belonging is belonging. That's it. That's so powerful. Financial belonging is belonging because our communities, our ability to get jobs, to get housing, finances underscore all of that. So financial belonging is belonging. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're seeing that play out on the individual and the policy level in your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll first say, on the individual level, when you're working with someone, it is really important to understand, as they were saying yesterday, that trauma is real for the communities that are represented here today. And so using that trauma-informed methodology is really important. This can start with just the basics of when somebody comes seeking assistance, of letting them know what the plan for the day is, and then giving them a plan for tomorrow, right? Letting them know, like, you're not at the end of the world. You might have some immediacy things that you need to take care of. There are resources available. Sometimes there are not resources available, but, and then the other thing, because if resources aren't available, because financial planning isn't just a one-time thing, you also need to show up and continue to show up, right? It is something, I'll come to, I don't remember the name of the movie, but there's this movie with someone who goes to see a psychologist, and he just sits there for days after days, and he's just counting like little ticker and just counting the clock, right? And then he'll come back, and then eventually he opens up. That's how it is for all of us, right? We all want a sense of safety. That person got something just by going there, even though that they didn't talk, right? Even if I'm coming to you, it is it's your opportunity to connect with them on their level. So just starting with that as a financial coach, as an individual that's trying to help them, of just being there and being able to listen, because it might turn out into something really amazing where you get a client that does something beautiful for the world. And then you asked about policy. This last year, we were trying to fight for minimum wage for people that are inside of prison. Part of this was splashy. We never expected like people in prison to get, $15 an hour, but 42 cents an hour, ridiculous, right? These are people this is an aging population. When they get out of prison, they have very little resources. They're not gonna have the same type of retirement as other people, especially somebody who wasn't here. He had been down for 20 years. I don't have a lot of assets. I don't have a lot of savings, and it is about for me, it's like trying to get to that point of feeling financially secure. It takes time, it takes some effort, and it takes patience. But there are things that we can do. So we were able to increase it to $1 an hour for people in prison, which is something. Also, then when I got out, I was given $40 in a bus pass, right? This is based off of standards that were set in 1974, I believe. And so you got 1974, $40 in a bus pass got you a little bit further than it does today, right? So we were able to increase it to $300, which is a start. It's something, Then finally, there are the cost of incarceration, the fines and fees that are associated with incarceration can be astronomical. The interest rates can be super high, up to 12%. And so you're creating this debtor's prison. One of the things that we were able to do was we were able to make it so that people, if they have the inability to pay, they can get that taken off, and so they won't have to actually pay part of it. They'll have to pay restitution, which is something that, which is like, if I've caused harm to you or your property, then I have to make sure that I pay that in full. But everything else, the cost of incarceration, the other legal financial obligations, I won't actually have to pay. If I can afford it. What this does is help give people that step up, right? It is a path. And a couple years ago when we first went out, and we're actually having a day in Skagit County tomorrow, where we're going to go to the courts, and people are able to come down to the courts and get their legal financial obligations reconsidered by the courts. And we did that the first time we did that in Pierce County. We were able to remove over $1.5 million in debt to, I think, around 700 people. So as far as policy goes, there's still youth still got to pay, legal financial obligations, and so it's like, you're creating a debtor's prison before you even turn 18, right? Before you even have a line of credit. So there's still things that we do need to still focus on. And then collections agencies is another one that still needs to be addressed, because it is very difficult to work with, to work yourself out of debt when the interest rates are so high. I think Bell is another one that really needs to be taken a look at. It is something that hopefully in the next few years there will be some sort of legislation out there to eliminate cash bail, because what you're saying is tying finances to your ability to be safe in the community, right? Like, does it really matter if I could pay $1 million? Does that mean that I'm not going to go out and commit another crime? It has nothing to do with how much money I have in my bank account, right? And so that's something that is just making the jail population boom. It makes it so that people are taking plea deals, and it is just a system of incarceration. It has nothing to do with the safety of the community when it comes down to it. There's other ways of taking a look. The judge can impose, that people stay in prison or in jail while their case is being handled. It has nothing to do with money. Has nothing to do with how well you can or what safety looks like for our community. So.
Very interesting.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to share about the changes, the benefits that you're seeing to individuals and the systems that you're working within around financial belonging?
I can share a couple. I know that with a lot of things that were going on with the pandemics, plural, there was a lot of grant money that came into our communities, especially around micro enterprises and small businesses. And it was a blessing and a curse, So it helped them for the short term, but it's definitely not sustainable, because once you get all of this money, especially for a lot of folks that are not used to having a ton of money, don't know what to do with it, maybe they can implement change in their business, but it's not sustainable. So that is something that I've seen a change. So hopefully there are some additional fund pools, some additional ways that we can support small businesses beyond these large lump sum grants. The other thing that I see is amazing partnerships. Recently, I partnered with Ventures nonprofit. One of the things that we were seeing during the pandemics is a lot of the landowners and the landlords were not renting to minority-owned businesses. And it wasn't about if they had the cash flow or the capital to pay the rent. It was because you don't look like me. I don't know if you're going to pay it. There's moratoriums in place, and I don't want to fool with you in case you don't pay. So one of the things that I saw that was super beneficial is we partnered with Ventures Nonprofit and put together a first-time commercial lease training, where a lot of folks are getting into these leases. They don't know about triple net. They don't know about any of these things. They're just so happy that their business is growing, and so they're signing on a dotted line. And then when these bills come up and they're like, wait a minute, I thought my rent was this. Well, yeah, this is your rent and your CAM fees. Didn't even understand that. So another thing that Ventures did, which I thought was amazing, they would go on the lease for the small business. So where these landlords would not rent to a Jenefeness, they would rent to a Ventures, but that then gives the sublease to me and also allows the small business owner the money to pay the rent. And once they paid it for a certain amount of time, they forgave the loan. So those are partnerships that are amazing, that are working for our communities. And those are the type of things that we should be looking to do, especially some of you financial institutions. There are organizations, nonprofits that are out here actually doing the work. So funding their programs so additional work can be done.
That's a great example. Thank you. So we are going to talk about changes that you've made to your systems and your policies, and maybe some challenges that you've had in implementing those changes. Mary, I'm wondering if you have anything you'd like to say around that.
I sure do. I always do. So talking about changes, I noticed that I'm not judging. I'm just wondering, which is different. Why every single institution requires the same documentation to open an account? I'm looking and I'm knocking doors and windows, and I'm trying to work with these banking institutions to reconsider the documents that they ask or request. Let's be realistic. These people, it's coming. Any single refugee is coming, and they don't have a social security. They don't have an IT number yet. They will eventually, but not yet. So, but they have everything they need to open a banking account, and the most important thing, they have the money that it's just going away from you guys' institutions. You know, it's just like, and as a matter of fact, I have a lot of people that they are like, I'm ready to open a business, but I don't have a banking account. How am I gonna do that? And I'm just please asking to reconsider, you know, the kind of documents that you guys need. I know there's a form somewhere in there that it's a special for foreign people to make to open an account, and then also I'm just like suggesting, why not taking the passport? The passport has your entire life on it. You cannot run away. You know, you have everything there. So, I mean, you know, eventually when they get their documents, you can switch to and request either the Social Security, because it only takes like 6 months, 9 months, depending on the program that you're coming in, to get your Social Security. So why not helping these people? And then, like I said, I'm just taking the portion on educating them how to start and how to keep going. And then I'm just looking for partners, or basically I'm looking to get to these banking institutions, and then I'm looking for help for them. I have quite a few people who already has like a landscaping companies. They're hiring people. See, they have their business and they're hiring people, daycares. But they have to use someone else to open the business because they are not able to. So these are my challenges, really. So I'm looking for partnerships. I know here it's a lot of people that work on banking institutions. I'm at Tacoma Community House. You guys can look for me. My name is Marty Vargas. And then we can do big things. We can do this.
And I think this would be a good place to plug this afternoon's session with Erin. There's a session this afternoon with DFI around alternative forms of ID. So please attend and learn. So let's talk a little bit about, well, actually, before we move on, I'm wondering, Marty and Milady, if you have anything to add around challenges with systems change.
Thank you. The entire premise of the Black Home Initiative is grounded in this notion of what we've been talking about the last day and a half, and that is being a network or being part of a network. And for you public sector folks, close your ears for a minute. I would say that if we were to attack this challenge of the Black Home Initiative from the public sector, we would have already hired 30 people to get started. We're not doing that in this case. We're empowering 80 partners who work in the space of supply, demand, and policy to lean in and to find ways of changing their practices and doing more. That is something that is not necessarily incentivized by the investment community, nor is it fully understood by the boards of directors of nonprofit organizations. We have for a long time rewarded a sense of independence rather than interdependence among organizations. The big investors pick the homecoming kings and queens to drop their money on, most of them led by people who look like me. So we have a lot of work to do if we're going to actually change the ecosystem. And how that plays out, let's just pick up on one piece, which is the demand side, or identifying and preparing buyers to buy homes, is really thinking about What does it mean to do the outreach differently? What does it mean to connect with people in a trustworthy way about the process, and how do we carry people in relationship through that? And so the entire work of BHI around the demand side started with a fairly comprehensive study done by a group called New Impact, working with all of our partners, gathering lived experience stories. If you want to see some of those stories, Rosa has them at the booth. And really looking at the systems around Black homeownership and the journey. What is it like? Where are all the impediments? What needs to change? What needs to transform? And so that's where we've begun the work. It's not expecting people to walk into and darken the doors of a retail place that has the brand on it of Tusari's major mega corporation. It's not necessarily even about people coming to a credit union door and darkening it. It's about being in community and connected to community through the Black churches, barbershops, beauty salons, wherever people are. So a massive effort underway on buyer outreach, just to begin with. Then aligning all the pre-purchase counseling that is already in existence, helping all of those pre-purchase counseling agencies deal with their own DEI issues, coming up with a sense of what does it mean to be culturally sensitive, how to do the work differently, and then working in the lending and underwriting side. And so we are as simple as what Umpqua and Chase are leading with, which are having community lending officers that look like community and who are not paid by commission, so that they actually can feel like they wake up every day caring about people in a different way. To the far end of the spectrum, where we're working with the Federal Housing Administration and HUD on changing underwriting criteria. So that's a wide gamut of work just in that space alone. But on the policy side specifically, when you talk about access to down payment assistance, for example, given the market environment and the huge gap that people have now, which continues to widen, we've tackled this issue by the first in the nation. You should be proud of this as a Washingtonian. Covenant's Homeownership Act and program. It is essentially a special purpose credit program that will launch, we hope, in June of 2024, once a study is complete, at least $100 million a year in down payment assistance, specifically for households who are negatively impacted by restrictive covenants. This, folks, is a big deal, right? And yeah. And let me get to the heart of the matter on this. Whenever we tried to do something, and by the way, you should know you don't live in the 36th most regressive tax state in the nation. You don't even live in the 45th most regressive. You live in the most regressive tax system in the country. If you want to do something big, get on that one. Because at the heart of every challenge we face is this issue of how do we marshal revenue for the people who truly should be getting it. But in this case, we use the document recording fee, which is the sacred cow of my dear friends and advocates in the housing space. It is something that the realtors despise, and it is something that the bankers hate. Okay? Now get a load of this. We were hoping when we were running this bill that we would at least see those three parties be neutral and not fight us, right? All three stood up and testified for it. First time ever we've seen something like that happen. So when you think about partnerships for significant change, figure out how we can get that kind of alignment with the people in this room when we do the kinds of things that are necessary. The special purpose credit program process requires a study. Why? Because we have a Fair Housing Act in this country. one of the most schizophrenic acts there is, because it is supposed to be doing certain things and it actually prohibits certain things that we want to see happen. But that's how we play the game. So those are just some things that we've been working on to try to change things.
Before we go to audience Q&A, Milady, I know you probably have a lot to add to this around challenges around systems change.
So I'm going to, again, speak specifically to what I know, the teaching and learning aspect of this. The challenge that I continuously hear whenever we go to workshops and events and forums such as this is there is no awareness of the fact that there is financial education in the K-12 public school system in Washington State. Very little awareness of that. We even have a grant out, non-competitive grant. Every district can apply. No one seems to know about it.
Flyers available at DFI's table.
There you go. And it's very, I'm not one to toot my own horn or our own horn. We are doing some amazing work. We are doing some really good work. But with that being said, in order for that work to have an impact, people need to know about it. Educators, districts, ESDs, they need to know about it. They need to understand the impact that this can and will have once they implement it into what they're already doing. We're not trying to convince educators to teach financial education as a separate subject, because we understand our educators are pretty busy, they're pretty taxed, they're pretty burned out. And we teach them how to incorporate it into what they're already teaching. You're teaching social studies, economics, math, English, this is how you incorporate financial education into it. Kids actually love learning about managing money. They are thirsty for this information. So that is the biggest hurdle and the biggest obstacle or barrier that I feel we face to actually impacting the systematic change that we know we can. It's just raising awareness, getting word out there that we are there. We have so many educators that come to us and they're like, I had no idea. I've been spending hours and hours and hours online looking for a good budgeting lesson, looking for a good investment lesson, and we're like, don't do that. We have it. Just go to feb.org. We have all of it there. We tell you how to do it. It's no prep or low prep work for our educators. That's what we're trying to do. So just raising that awareness, I think, is going to be a really important piece to what we're doing.
Thank you. Not sure if there's someone available to run a mic around for Q&A, but I know probably there's some questions percolating out there. I already see one hand. Wait one moment for a mic. And we'll do Q&A for about 10 minutes. Way to wear those sneakers today.
The microphone handoff. Awesome. It's a relay. Jenefeness, I have a question for you about, would you be willing to talk about a little bit more in detail about how that works? Like, how does ventures become a co-signer or whatever on a lease, and what's behind that? And then I have a question too for
You
Marty.
only get one question.
I only get one question. No. I don't want to dominate.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just so curious.
You are curious. But we will definitely have more time for networking too. But let me just answer your question really quickly, and then you can ask your second question. So as far as Ventures is concerned, and I know they're not the only organization, but one of the things that they did is they curated a training course. It's a 4-week course. And it starts with, it goes from looking at an actual contract, the lease contract, what should be in it, what should not be in it. It goes into negotiations. So you go through the course, and you don't have to, but you do have to go through one of their programs. That's the one thing I love about them. They are all about relationships. So any of the programs that you've gone through, they will then help in different ways. So they have relationships with the folks who have gone through their programs, and if If one of their challenges is a lease, then they go in and say, oh, we got you. You know, so it's basically built on the relationships that they have with the folks who've gone through their cohorts. That's all I know. I'm not a Ventures employee. I was actually a partner with them in developing the program. So I would contact them directly.
I will contact Ventures, but
Yes.
yeah, thank you. My question for Marty is, and forgive me for not being more informed about the organization that you work with and represent, but where I work, we host 2 asset building coalitions, one in Thurston County, one in Mason County, and I'm curious, what does your organization help asset building coalitions with networking ideas, you know, or support of any kind?
Yeah. So Civic Commons has most of its work to date has been focused in the Puget Sound, the 4 counties of the Puget Sound, in terms of reaching out, though more broadly. We are starting to do belonging work and possibly Black Home Initiative work in Spokane, and there's a lot of conversations in Olympia. So we're a small team, 4 people, but we believe that there's a hunger for the kinds of things that we're doing, and we're talking about how we can figure out how to resource and spread that around. Yep. If you want to know more about the network, let me just say this. If you go to newnetworkleader.org, a lot of the materials that Professor Jane Wayskillern and I have been using for the last now 15 years training nonprofits around the country are there, and you can get started fairly easily with those network resources. I would also encourage you to read a book from a friend of mine, David Ehrlichman, called Impact Networks. It's probably got some of the best recipe in it for how to actually start and grow a network if you can't get time from some of us to help you in that process. But there's a lot of resources now out there that are emerging, and of course we have a toolkit at Civic Commons that we follow and a recipe, but those are some easy to access resources that you can get your hands on, and of course if you ping me, I'm happy to send you a flood of PowerPoint presentations as well. So we are all about open source. Jane and I have made a commitment to not putting our stuff behind a firewall. Yeah, there is also a board source tool. If you look this up in the internet, called Reimagining Boards for Impact, and we put that out last December. It's a study Jane and I did of 12 nonprofit organizations.
And that's on newnetworkleader.org.
That can be accessed there, but you can also go to Board Source, or just type in Reimagining Boards for Impact.
All right, looks like we have another question right here. Yep.
All right, I just want to bring about awareness, something I'm actually working on through the Black Prisoners Caucus community group. How we could better effectuate change is there's a bill that I'm actually working on in conjunction with Mia Gregerson, which is another state rep. We're working on a bill where we could get youthful offenders. So youthful offender, if you guys don't know, the state and the Supreme Court has already adopted this through the State versus Odell case. And they talk about the brain science study. Individuals that are under the age of 25, their brains aren't fully developed. So they're less culpable for the things they actually do. And due to that, there's a lot of people that are getting in trouble before the age of 25. So what we want to do is we want to take initiatives in different states such as Alabama, Florida, and Hawaii. And they're actually selling the records of these young individuals. I really think that that would create a major change within the state. So I hope that you guys, when this comes across as a bill, I hope that you guys really take a look into that and really consider that. Besides that, I would also say for financial inclusion, let these relationships not be transactional, just transactional. You know, one thing I would have to commend Chase on, I went to the bank on Friday, and the guy wanted to know my story, so I told him my story. You know, I was a little conflicted about telling him at first because I'm inside of a bank about to tell the guy I did a robbery, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I told him my story, And man, he loved it. He was blown away. And he was like, man, I'm going to put you in contact with my vice president. He likes to do community outreach. So just Monday, I got email talking about, can I meet with you tomorrow? I was like, man, I got this event to go to, but let's figure it out. So on Friday, yeah, this is not a transactional relationship. This guy invited me out for breakfast, man. So
Beautiful.
yeah, please. Let our relationships not just be transactional.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I'll just add, if you're talking about the emerging adults bill, we're definitely supporting that one. So.
I have a hand over here, Ryan.
Okay, you're next. Gotta get my steps in. Gotta get my steps in.
Okay, so I have 2 questions. Can you repeat the name of that bill one more time?
Are you talking about emerging adults?
No, I'm doing a separate bill, but I support that.
Okay, well, I'll give you my card so we can reach out. I think it might be 1312, HB 1312. I can't remember. It changes every 2 years, so.
We'll check it out.
1313 maybe as well. One of those.
Okay, and then the other thing, I used to work at a bank, and right down the street from the Washington State Correctional Facility there in Monroe. And I had the opportunity to serve clients who were just coming out of the system, and it has always bothered me that the state does not just issue a state ID so that these individuals don't have to come into a bank first thing and say, hey, this is where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, what I will say is our governor actually vetoed that bill this last year, not because of that specific part, but another part that is actually just as important, if not more. And so that's something that Senator Claire Wilson, I forgot which legislative district she's in, but she ran that bill, and she'll be running that bill again. But the issue was it's always money. It comes down to it, even for the state. So we got to work on some of those regressive taxes. But when it comes down to it, what we're trying to do is planning for reentry starts the day you get in. And
I like that.
a lot of organizations and nonprofits, they're trying to do that, but Department of Corrections, the administration doesn't necessarily allow for people who have 20-year sentences to start their reentry process as soon as they get in. Even with this bill, it only starts for a year out, but it's better than nothing. But a lot of nonprofits really do need that partnership and support to be able to do some of these the reentry work inside prisons. And that'll take care of some of the financial education and the planning. There are people who are, as you know, it's like the books that are being read inside a prison, there's hundreds of books on finances that are being, that people are reading, but when you get out, you're hit with the reality, and you're also hit with, not having money to start, what that looks like. And so there doesn't need to be that soft handoff, but there's so much that can happen while you're inside to make sure it happens. And at the moment of release, right? You have to go and get, one of the things that we want to add on to that is EBT cards. Everybody's eligible as soon as they get out. Why can't they have it at the gate for them, right? So that's something that we also need to work on.
Love it. Another plug for the DFI workshop this afternoon. We're going to be talking about identification.
Hello, everyone. Tiara Bonds again. And I'm just feeling very emotional about the justice involved. Prior to starting Take Charge, I worked at Department of Corrections. So we would have, back then we called them ex-offenders, but we would have individuals come in and we would fingerprint them and give them this ID that keeps getting brought up. And something just didn't feel right. But now, you know, back then it was, I'm paycheck to paycheck, I'm done with this. But as I reflect on it, I felt like I was part of the problem. So just thank you guys for sharing, Jarrell, and thank you for my invite, accepting that. I just felt like part of the problem. So my question is, you guys mentioned a couple of bills, but how else can we as a community really get involved to make change in this? Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. I love you.
You know, don't you work with Just Involved Youth? You want to start?
I try to stay in my lane, y'all. And as much as I'm very transparent, that is the group that I know the least about. That is the group that I have worked the least with. I have data, and I understand that our unhomed and our foster youth and our financially vulnerable youth have a much higher likelihood of becoming, and many of them do become, involved with the justice system, and not in a positive way, not because they become cops. So I'm going to defer to the experts on this one, but thank you.
I mean, for our work, it starts with, you know, letting your elected officials know, you know, keeping them accountable to the bigger picture of what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create an environment of healing and not of punishment, right? It's the punishment is going to prison. Being in prison itself isn't the punishment. That's where you go. It's called Department of Corrections. It's not Department of Punishment, right? So we have to hold, you know, our systems accountable, and why I was asking Milady to speak first was because it starts with prevention, and it starts at the home, and then it moves from there, right? Having these conversations, being open and honest with your loved ones about, you know, finances, about that savings, about what it takes, about educating your loved ones on that, because crimes of opportunity are often around financial crimes, right? And so we can start to cut that, you know, short and make sure and people aren't going to prison in the first place or committing these crimes. Crimes are going to happen. It's still a thing. The world is not, I want to say this, you know, but the world, America, our community currently is not burning, right? And I'm just going to be mezzo with that and just say our community, right? Like the crime is actually going down comparatively over the last decade. You can look at ACLU of Washington's website. They actually have some information about that. But what I will say as well is, you know, do your work and try your best within what your capabilities are within your lane to make sure policies within your organization, whether it's the hiring policies and practices, because you might want to say, oh, I'll help somebody, but will you actually work with someone? If you are working with them and you get them on doing advisory work with you, are you paying them to do that? Or are you just asking them for their professional or for their lived experience, right? And you're going to use that because at the end of the day, you're getting paid an hourly wage while they're showing up and they have to get somebody to take care of their kids just to come speak with you about whatever it is that you're doing. And so for so long, you know, these type of things we've overlooked. And so one of the policies and things that we do is make sure that our impacted people, whenever they're speaking on our behalf or with us, that we're paying them because I'm getting paid to do this work. So they should too. And with that said, you know, for y'all's government agencies that are here, right? There is a bill, and I encourage you all. This one is it's not one I work on, I'm not leading on, but it's a really important bill. It's called Nothing About Us Without Us, and it is a bill that is led by people with disabilities. And this is to make sure that people who have some sort of lived experience and you're doing committees or like government committees or work groups, that there's always somebody there in that room who is impacted by whatever it is. And this is how we have to be able to take a look at and do within our organizations, and all of us have to reckon with, is when we're trying to make policies about people, we need to include them in what we're doing. Because if we don't, then we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to go back. You know, if we can get it done right the first time, we're not going to create the harm that we've created for decades, because for so long we've tried to just do without actually bringing people into the room. So
Thank you. Can you imagine a correction system that was designed to around a person with the lived experience, that was actually supported the rehabilitation process and people could exit and be successful? Can you imagine that? Wow, that would be beautiful. So we're going to do some imagining at our tables and some discussing with each other. We have heard some really powerful examples of hard work being done on the individual. Oh, hey.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Patty with Coastal Community Bank. And the first thing, I've been doing this for 30 years, so I want to say thank you to everybody, because this has been a long journey, especially in the banking industry. My question for everyone is, I have 4 pages of notes, so thank you. I've done a lot of heavy lifting for 30 years, but what I'm so passionate about is, I love the question that Ryan and I were talking about, is when we, the financial industry, get back to work tomorrow, what can we do in 30 days or less to make a difference? Because I find that super important. I've been doing this for 30 years, and all of the topics are near and dear to my heart. Many of your faces I recognize. Many committees I've participated on. And it does take time. I'm disappointed as a country that it's taken us this long to get this far. We have a long way to go. However, one of the words that I love Ryan brought up is, how can I make a difference in a short period of time? And the word is momentum. So everyone wants to be a part of something special. So how can I create something special where I'm at? Something as simple that broke my heart when you told the story about, I'm going to go cash my check and my employee's in my bank for an hour. Absolutely not. That's not acceptable. When someone comes in my bank, are they welcomed? Hey, welcome in. How's your day? How can I help? Or something as simple as, my goal is to find ways to say yes and not no. So I actually wanted to ask the question to everybody in the room, and I'll take notes. I got my pen. Take my notes. What can I do, or what can the banking industry do in the next 30 days to make a difference? And trust me, I would love to write all you guys checks.
Hey, that's great. Thank you for setting up our prompt. So, if everybody could take that question, take a moment to reflect. What can you do in 30 days to make your system, from your role, from your organization, your institution, what can you do to make your system more inclusive for the types of folks that we have been talking about for the past 2 days? And how can you center their experience and how they're coming in and receiving services? We're going to do this for 10 minutes or so. And you can take a moment to reflect and then discuss with your table. Thank you.